executive session. But so we'll call this regular meeting of the Carefree Town Council to order. And please take a silent roll call. We're all here tonight. And Brian Bunkers, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, very good. And I would just remind everyone as we get started, if you have an opportunity to come up and speak, to speak loud and clear, and so folks back who are listening on YouTube can hear you. So first item up is the consent agenda. All items listed here under are considered to be routine by the town council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be discussed separately. So item 1, approval of the November 4th, 2025 Town Council regular meeting minutes. Item 2, approval of the check register report, November 2025. Number 3, approval of the September 30th, 2025 combined trial balance. Item 4, request for approval of a temporary street closure for Ho-Hum Drive between Sanders and Lincoln Pavilion on Saturday, December 6th, from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. for the Kiwanis Christmas and the Carefree Lights Up events. Item number 5, approval of a temporary street closure for Easy Street from Wampum Way to Sundial Circle and a portion of Ho-Hum Drive on Sunday, January 11th, 2026, from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. for the Orphan and Oddballs Car Show. Would anyone like to pull any of those items from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve items 1 through 5 of the consent agenda.
Motion to approve items 1 through 5 on the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you. Item number 6, current events. So one of the most notable things that happened in the month of November is our town administrator, Gary Neese, announced his retirement. So he's worked with us for 24 years, and I would say it's been a pretty good run. I'm sure you would agree. And I think the greatest testimonial to Gary's time with the town of Carefree is what he leaves us with. So the town has never been more financially sound than it is today. We have more money in the bank than ever. If you look at our infrastructure, it's solid. You look at our roads, the gardens, they're just beautiful. And if you look at our town staff, we have a very strong town staff, and he had a hand in hiring every one of those people. So thank you for everything you've done for us.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Just a few comments. I'd like to thank you, the council. I know the pay is not great, but volunteering is something that you guys, it's a tough world to be in politics today, and what you do. You couldn't pay me enough to do what you do, but thank you for what you do and your support and dedication. Thank you to the residents and their support through the years. I've been, since I made my announcement, been contacted by residents far and near, and I really appreciate the comments and the support that they shared with me. And then our town staff, it's like family. You work with these folks every day. You're in the trenches. It's not an easy world to be a public servant these days. And they're dedicated, they're talented, they're committed to this community. And I couldn't be pleased to leave the town with the support of the staff, the talented staff that we have. And the mayor touched upon some of the things, the legacies that I leave this community. We have 110-mile lanes of street that will take you all the way down to Tucson. Challenge anybody to find a pothole on one of those streets today. I mean, that's unheard of. Our financial position, the highest reserves, as the mayor alluded to, than we ever had. Pretty good testament, especially with the Great Recession and the COVID shutdown that we experienced and the investments that we have to make in our infrastructure. Pretty tremendous accomplishment. Investment in fire resources. 24 years ago, we had 50% of the fire hydrants that we have today. We've expanded the fire hydrant program and expanded the water capacity so that when these fire hydrants open up, we have capacity to serve our residents in a time of need. The investment in the firehouse and our new Pierce fire pumper truck, a Type A brush truck, and we continue to invest in that firehouse. And you've seen that through each budget cycle and the investments that we made. Tremendous resource that we have over there with Rural Metro and the fire station. Open space, one of the things when I first came on board, we didn't have a mountainside ordinance. We won a statewide award for that mountainside ordinance, and that mountainside ordinance has preserved sensitive land throughout the community. From an organizational perspective, the Consolidated Court, very proud of that. That was the first consolidated court within the state of Arizona, is used as a model court to save local communities money. Something that we should all be very proud of, and we've partnered with Cave Creek on that. More recently, we moved to a digital platform, and I know there was some folks that did not support that, but everybody in the trades, the residents, they love it, and it's really improved the efficiency of submitting both licenses and permits. So all this stuff, it's not just me, it's a team effort. It's the council, it's the support of the mayor and council, it's the support of the residents, and the support of staff. This is teamwork. This is what it takes to get these things done. So I have to thank you, Mayor, the council members, the residents, and staff for your unwavering support and dedication over the years. I'm closing 3.5 decades of public service, and don't know if this is the last chapter for me as far as working. I'm looking at opportunities in the private sector, but I'm really grateful for the service and the indelible imprint I had on the communities that I represented over that timeline. 3.5 decades is a very long time. When I started, I didn't have any children. I have a family, and these kids are matured and college graduates and have their own careers. And when I started Carefree, I just had one child. I have 2 children now, and they're both healthy and well, and I want to spend some time with them. That's what I'm going to do. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, Carefree.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. So Gary's retirement is not until the first week of March, so we can still get him to do more stuff.
I just want to say you've been a great leader, and I appreciate all the help that you gave me when I first joined the council. I knew nothing about government or anything really, but you've always had time and taken an interest in what we're doing and what we need, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, well said.
So I just would like to add that many of you know that my career was in municipal finance, and so I saw the good, bad, and the ugly when it came to governmental issues for state and local governments. And what I believe firmly is the foundation of good governments is really fiscal responsibility. And we, under Gary's guidance, as well as previous councils and mayors, have been very fortunate to be able to build up a capital fund and take care of our streets and our infrastructure. There are many local governments out there that do not have the ability to do that, and we do. And so we should all be very proud of the work that's been done in order to be able to have, good infrastructure. It's not, you should never take it for granted. So thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else from anyone? Okay, great. So a couple more current events. We have community conversations coming up this Friday, so a few days, 9 to 11 in the pavilion in the farmers market. So I'll be there with council members Lon Johnson and Diane Roth. And then on the following day, Saturday, December 6th, Kiwanis Christmas for the kids comes back. So if you went to it last year, a lot of good stuff for kids. They give out like 50 bicycles. Even if you don't have any kids or grandkids, just come out there and just walk around. You'll feel good. It's fun. So just check it out. And then that evening we have Carefree Lights Up, so that's our tree lighting. So it starts at 5 o'clock. We have carolers out around the tree by the Veterans Memorial. The tree's there already set up. It's big and decorated. So the carolers will start at 5. We'll light the tree at 5:20. And then we have some music. Jubilate Conservatory of Music will be playing. The Desert Hills Presbyterian Church Handbells will be out there with the youth saxophone quartets. There'll be music in the pavilion, walking around, you have some hot chocolate. It's free, yeah, it's cool. And then from 6 to 7, Kevin Glenn, who's a resident, he's a music teacher, so he's bringing in some local singing talent. We'll have the Desert Cactus Kickers back again. They were here last year, it was last several years, they're fun. And then we have the Performing Outreach Project Dance Group. So that'll go from 6 to 7. So 2 hours of a good time to kind of kick off the Christmas season. I promise you'll have a good time. Next item up, caffeine with the firefighters. So we're doing that again Thursday, December 11th in the Black Mountain Coffee Shop from 8 to 10 in the morning. So it's a chance to sit down with these guys, see what they're thinking about, what's important, learn about Firewise a little bit. And we're going to learn some more about it here shortly. But it's just a good opportunity, a relaxing environment. Grab yourself a cup of coffee and sit down with them. And then we have Hanukkah coming back again to the pavilion. So this is the 9th year from the 14th to the 21st of December. So every night it begins at 5:30, and so it's 8 nights worth. If it was me, I think I would go on the first night, because that's the community night. So you see a lot of community activities, some of our local nonprofits. And then on the last night, which is the 21st, they'll have a Holocaust survivor there that evening. But every night is a good night to go. But those two, if you're going to go to two, I would go to those two. And then my last comment is the Garden Seminar Series resumes in January. So we have little rack cards over there to tell you what all the 4 sessions are. And the first one's on irrigation. So water, we talk about water all the time. You'll come away knowing how to better manage your irrigation systems, because that's where probably 70% of your water goes, is to irrigation, outdoor stuff. So that's well worth your while. Anyone else have any current events to talk about? Okay, great. We'll move on to item number 7, update and discussion about the Firewise USA program. So we've been talking Firewise here for probably about a year. And through that course of a year, 3 of our HOA communities have become Firewise certified. It's a big deal. And so tonight we'd like to acknowledge them and basically thank them for what they've done and recognize them. And so who will lead this discussion from the fire department? Would it be Chris Reed or Chief Talley or BJ? Okay, Chief Pullman, come on up.
Thank you. Good evening. For those who don't know me, my name is BJ Pullman. I'm one of the battalion chiefs for Rural Metro here at the Carefree Fire Station. A little bit of my background. The reason I'm so excited about the Firewise program is my family moved into Carefree in the mid-'60s. And this is where I started my fire career. It's where I'm going to end my fire career. So this town, protecting this town and making this town a safer place is really important to me. And that's what the Firewise program is all about. So if you'll indulge me, I'd just like to speak for a few minutes about what Firewise is, what Firewise isn't, and the benefits to Firewise. As Mayor Crane knows, sometimes I'm a little long-winded, so I took some notes to try and keep it a little bit brief. So what Firewise is a program developed by the National Fire Protection Association. It's overseen locally by the State Land Department of Forestry and Fire Management. They'll come out, put on classes. They put on classes for us here, right in this room. They put on a home ignition zone class. The classes are free. The program, it's a community risk reduction program. What that means is it's all about making the community safer. It's a community-led program, so it's not overseen by the fire department. It's not overseen by the government or even the Department of Forestry. It's the individual communities form a board, and they're the ones that oversee it. So one of the things it's not Big Brother looking over your shoulder and telling you what you need to do to your yard. It's a program that is designed to educate homeowners as to what they can do to make their homes safer. I'll say when, not if, the fire comes, because they are going to. We've seen it a lot recently. We saw it a few years ago in Maui when they lost all those homes. We saw the big fires in Los Angeles a couple of years ago. Last summer, we lost all those structures at the north rim of the Grand Canyon with the Dragon Bravo fire. And for those of us who have been around town for a few years, we remember the big fires in Cave Creek in 2020, where several structures were lost. The thing is with these big fires, no matter who your fire department is, no matter how big, I mean, it's hard to imagine fire departments bigger than what they have in Los Angeles. But these big fires will outstrip the resources of any fire department. You know, in the Cave Creek fire, there were dozens of fire engines there. You know, the mutual aid agreements worked the way they're supposed to. There were dozens of fire engines. I think it was a 4-alarm fire, but there were hundreds of homes threatened. So what FireWise does is it helps you protect your own home, to do the prep work necessary so that when the fire does come, your home can survive on its own. Because in these big scale fires, there's never going to be enough fire trucks to park one in everyone's driveway. Some of the houses are going to have to make it on their own. So the first step is designating your community. You have to have a community. The 3 that we've done so far have been HOAs, which is a perfect vehicle for it because there's already a community leadership group in place. But for those that live in non-HOA neighborhoods, you just need to get some neighbors together. It needs to be a minimum of eight homes, and you can form a FireWise board with as few as 8 homes. Then you get an assessment. That's where myself and Chris from DFFM will come out and do a community risk assessment. Just the 30,000-foot view of the community, how it looks, and what can be done to try and make it a little safer. That report is given to the board. The board then creates a community action plan. Once that action plan is approved, you log your hours. There is some sweat equity involved, but it's not a tremendous amount, and it's all doing things that you should do. That you don't have to, but you should. There's no one telling you have to do this. And that's where I'll get into what FireWise isn't. I know I've already said it's not government run. It's not a big brother thing. FireWise will never advocate clear-cutting the land or moonscaping your property. They don't want that. FireWise doesn't make the desert fireproof. What FireWise is designed to do is to help your house survive, not your yard and not the desert. It's if a fire comes through and burns up all the land and all the desert is black and all the houses are standing, that means FireWise worked. FireWise is all about the home. There's another thing that there's not in FireWise is mandatory participation. If your HOA decides to try and become FireWise recognized, and there are 50 or 60 houses in the HOA, and 3 or 4 people are saying, you know what, I'm just not going to do that. Well, that's okay. It's not going to cause you to lose your FireWise recognition. All it's going to mean is their house isn't as prepared as the others. But that's totally up to them. So what are the benefits of FireWise, of becoming FireWise recognized? There's the possibility of decreased homeowners insurance premiums. Some insurance companies offer discounts, some don't. We've seen with these big fires like Los Angeles, we've seen where insurance companies are canceling people's insurance. Well, maybe if you're in a FireWise recognized community, your homeowner's insurance won't get canceled because you live in a dangerous area. There's the potential for government grants. Every year with FireWise, there's certain things you have to do every year to maintain your certification. You have to have a meeting every year. You have to put in the sweat equity hours. One of the things, once you're certified, you can put in for government grants. So if you decided to have a neighborhood cleanup day and get a dumpster for everyone to use for their yard trimmings, maybe the grant could pay for that. Most of all, the biggest benefit to it is your home is more likely to survive when the wildfire happens. Because like I say, it's not a matter of if, it is a when. Fires happen in the desert, and they happen every year. This year we didn't have much, but we've had a lot of rain so far this fall. Rain brings on the grasses and the weeds, and when summer comes, those all turn brown, and that's the main carrier of our fire, is those grasses and weeds. So the fires are going to happen. Firewise just is an education program to tell you how you can make your home safer. So that's kind of the 30,000-foot view of what Firewise is. I have lots of information I can give if anyone's interested. When this is over, I'll leave some cards over on the corner table, and anyone can call, text, email, and we can set up a time to meet if anyone's interested in trying to do this for their neighborhood. Right now, I'd like to ask Chris to come up. Chris Reeds with Department of Forestry Fire Management. We have, we'd like to recognize the 3 communities. So I think we have representatives here from everywhere. Yes. So like I said, these communities took all the steps that I talked about. They formed their board. We went out, the 2 of us went out and did the overview of the community. We did the risk assessment. They developed their plans, did all the legwork, put in their hours for the sweat equity, and they've become recognized. Part of this is Chris brought, I left it back in my chair, but we've got a couple of signs for the communities also. So Carefree Foothills, Brian, we've got this certificate, and congratulations.
Thank you.
And we've got the signs for your community back here.
Awesome.
Larry, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Carefree Mountain Estates. Chris, Carefree Mountain Estates and Double Gate were the first.
Thanks, Chris.
Great job.
Thanks very much.
And Double Gate, it's in. Double Gate and right there at the start too. So great job. Thank you. And if there's no questions, that's really all I have. I'd like to, like I said, I'll leave some cards over if there are any communities represented that would like to meet at some point and maybe get started with the program.
Okay. Well done to all these communities. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
Just a couple other points. So Double Gate was the trailblazer. I think you were the first recognized one by about 12 hours, and then Carefree Mountain Estates was later in the day. But our firemen are out there at the farmers market, at the post office, really trying to promote this Firewise, just this education programs. So you just make your house safe. It's not draconian. It's mostly just common sense stuff. So it's awareness, and I think that's the key to it, especially after all the rain we have had recently. So you can almost count on it. Next spring is going to be a lot of wildflowers and a lot of weeds. So you just got to get ahead of it. And then Carrie Johnson, who's here, she's out there at the post office maybe once or twice a month, just spreading the word about Firewise. So it's a real team effort, not only within the communities, but within residents and with our firemen. So thank you all for doing that. Thanks. All right. Item number 8. So agenda item number 8, review, discussion, and possible action regarding zoning case number 25-11-TA, proposed text amendments to the Town of Carefree zoning ordinance and the Town of Carefree subdivision ordinance to implement the requirements of Arizona Revised Statutes 9-500.49. This is a public hearing, and comments will be taken and entered into the record. So,
All right, thank you,
Stacy.
Mayor. All right, appreciate that. First, just a housekeeping item. You all found a packet at your desk, at your chairs, at your desk, the dais. And just want to let you know that's really, it's a modified ordinance. So this is just information that isn't changing any content or anything that we're about to discuss this evening. What it does do for us, our legal counsel found that it could save us a considerable amount of money because we have to publish these ordinances for 30 days. That's why this has sort of been moving a bit quickly while we're looking to have you look to adopt this today. We wait our 30 days, you've heard that before, and then these laws become effective. But we have to publish within that time frame, and legal publications can be very expensive today. So this was a way through state ordinance that does allow us to have an ordinance and reference the content online, I believe.
Yes.
So, so that's why you have that in front of you. Again, none of the information that we're talking about, though, has changed. And I think the other thing that's important to mention is that this legislation isn't easy for any of us, to be quite frank. Staff is very uneasy about it. It really looks to take authority away from local government, and I think that is an issue, and it's something that I do want to say that we are concerned about, and we'll be looking for ways as we go down our zoning update process to try to figure out ways to incorporate citizen participation so that it's not lost entirely. It does bring up questions of transparency of the public, and that's something that we fight all the time, and we try to be as transparent as we can, and we want to have that trust. But this, you know, when you put these approvals in staff's hands, it's challenging. The workload is also an issue for staff as well. What it has done is it put more on our desks in terms of having to move things forward. There's things in the legislation that talk about expedience and at-risk submittals, and so those are things that, again, we have to figure out how to manage, and it makes it a little bit harder for us. But then I go back again, and the biggest thing is just sort of usurping the local authority of our governments and our community. But so we'll get through this, and I think what will be interesting is down the road when we are in the general plan update, we definitely will come back and revisit it. But what the legislation says and what the intent was, and you all are very familiar with this, is I think there was an effort, and there has been an effort on the state's part to try to encourage affordable housing. I think, unfortunately, they're going about it in a way that probably isn't really targeting really the issue of affordable housing, but they're going through it by tweaking with zoning, and I think that for towns such as ours, that becomes complicated and difficult sometimes to have to move forward. But we will, what is interesting about what the legislation says and what we do today is we actually practice some of these things. So what the bill does talk about is, again, this administrative approval, which is basically staff approval. So they're looking for site plans and development plans. Development plans are like construction documents. Which, interestingly, construction documents, building permits, that is an administrative approval today. It also requires land divisions, lot line adjustment, lot ties. These are divisions of land that are 3 or less lots. Those have been administrative and carefree since I've been here. So that isn't going to change. Probably the biggest change, other than the site plans, is the preliminary and final plats and plat amendments. You saw a plat amendment last month about a drainage easement. So those things will now, each of those processes be administrative. Originally, preliminary plats were actually public hearings. So really what the law is saying is that there will be no public hearing required for those types of cases. It also now allows, we have to have a process for at-risk submittals, which is for early grading procedures for people to grade early in a project. It also requires for the town to offer an expedited review process for qualified applicants. And so a lot of these things, again, are things that are difficult to manage, and I think what we've done is created language that allows for these things to occur, but under as much control as we can provide. So again, we do need to be in compliance by the end of the year, January 1st. And so this, from this date forward 30 days, that puts us right into compliance. What we're looking at and what we're amending at this time is the subdivision ordinance, which really primarily discusses a lot of the preliminary plat, final plat, all the land divisions, the residential aspect of development. It does touch on the zoning ordinance. As I mentioned, we are looking to incorporate expedited reviews, at-risk grading. It also has to allow for an appeals process for any of these decisions now that staff has made. We do have to modify, we have 2 development review manuals, the site plan development review manual and the land divisions development review manual, and these just basically reflect the revisions that are in the document or that are being proposed tonight. So what are we looking at? What is changing? So the key revisions in the subdivision ordinance include, again, not to sound redundant, but it is staff approval of preliminary and final plats and any kind of replats. It just basically removes any kind of public hearing requirement, and that particularly also pertains to public meetings as well. We are updating, since we have an opportunity to clean up some older references or some agency names that had changed. And in general, it's just aligning with the state administrative review requirements. What we're doing in the zoning ordinance, it does require modifications, and again, going back to site plans, those will be administratively approved. So for example, when we looked at the northeast corner a few months back in June, that went in front of the Development Review Board. That no longer will be the case for example, that project or any other type of commercial development projects. It also talks about, again, establishing a clear appeals process. So any decision that has been made can be appealed by anybody in the community, by anywhere, within certain timeframes. It also adds for provisions for, again, expedited review. And what we did in terms of that language to expedite permit reviews, we aligned it with our actual fee schedule, which included expedited reviews for commercial type projects, either commercial and garden office, things other than residential. So those really will not fall under any kind of expedited processes. At-risk grading and infrastructure permits, there is, and you probably saw in the language that is being proposed, some pretty decent hurdles that need to be cleared in order for the town to then permit an at-risk grading permit submittal. So with that said, the development review manuals then fall in line. The land division development manual just mirrors the subdivision ordinance changes, and it does clarify some of the submittal materials and review steps. As well as in the site plan development review manual, it's been updated to reflect new administrative procedures. Now, as Gary mentioned, a lot of these are online now, and so that has been also clarified within our new permitting system. So tonight, this is a public hearing. I'm happy to answer any questions. Legal counsel is available to answer questions. You open a public hearing, we'll take comments, close that hearing. You all have an opportunity to discuss the changes amongst yourselves, and then move forward with motions. This is, since we do have two ordinances, it does require two separate motions, and those are presented for you for your help. So that's all I have. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Okay, well, just a couple of comments. So one, with this House bill, really, it takes away power from the town council, from planning and zoning, and from you, the residents. And it does, I mean, it's, and then it takes that power and turns it over to staff.
Mm-hmm.
So it puts staff in a tough spot, and it takes authority away from us. So the intention, I believe, of the state legislature and the government was to streamline the process for developers. Well, it certainly does that, but it does it at our expense. And I would argue, especially in a small town, see, people live in a small town like ours. There's 3,700 people, so you have a voice here, right? You can come in here and you can talk to us. You can come to a council meeting. Bigger towns, you're a town of, say, 370,000 people. Well, your voice isn't so impacted, and maybe it's not such a big deal. But here it is really a big deal. So a town like us, or Cave Creek, or Paradise Valley, I think it's all pretty painful. And it follows a trend that we see today from the state legislature and the governor. They're taking power away from us. So they're taking power away from us here. They take away our taxing ability, whether it's groceries or long-term leases or short-term rentals. It's a disturbing trend. And this is just, in fact, I would argue this is the worst of them all. And especially if you look at how we looked at when we did our general plan. When we updated our general plan, we included opportunities for public input. Why? Because that was important to us. We wanted to do that. This is a step backwards. But unfortunately, we have to comply with the state law. So that's what we're doing tonight. And I wouldn't say there's workarounds, but there's ways to mitigate it, and maybe ways to correct it in time. So as you suggested, we're going through the zoning ordinance update with Michael Baker. So every community is dealing with this, right? So he's working with all these towns. He's working with Paradise Valley. And so we'll be able to tap into that knowledge and figure out how do we cope with this so we can still have public input for things, even if it doesn't go to a planning and zoning committee meeting or it doesn't come to town council. At least the public can weigh in and staff can hear it. And then we're going to look to the League of Cities and Towns for model city codes. So maybe they have some ideas on how to cope with this. The chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Peter Burns, suggested that we pass a resolution, us and other towns, to just express ourselves how we think this is not such a great idea. And we can band together, and collectively we're more forceful than if independently. And then this is work with the League of Cities and Towns. So the League of Cities and Towns are our lobbying group, right? So they lobby the state legislature and the governor. So they have an executive director, so you can give us some general ideas about how to implement it. But they also have a legislative liaison, so you can give us some clues about how to navigate this thing. So it's generally I don't know, I think it's a bad idea, but we have to comply with the law, and it's unfortunate. And I'll open it up to comments from other council members, but when we're done with that, I'd just like to review some of the big projects or pending possible projects, so we can understand the impact of this. And on each one, some will be it will be minimal, and some will be more significant. Okay, so I'll open up to council
Oh, I
and
just,
speak.
so do you have any idea how the appeals process would work? I mean, is that gonna make it much more complicated with this legislation than it currently is, or?
Thank you. No, I don't believe it complicates it. I think it just gives the public a right to appeal a decision that has been made administratively. So, however, you know, if there is a belief that something may have been approved that wasn't in line and wasn't objective and wasn't meeting the requirements that we have in place, whether there are subdivision requirements or our zoning requirements. What's actually interesting about that and bringing that up, I mean, so there is that opportunity for the public to say if staff has made a decision, they can appeal that decision. It goes in front of, right now, you know, we may have to fine tune how we're crafting that, because we have an appeals process for other types of zoning applications that go to the Board of Adjustment. And so we're just kind of using that body right now. But we've always, being a statutory community, we've always sort of looked at things that really haven't been able to push the boundaries that might actually fall in line with an appeal, something subjective. We've always sort of approached any of our developments objectively, whether that's been frustrating or not. That's sort of always been our approach. And so really it's somebody that might make an appeal would be as if they believe that there was something subjective or that didn't fall in line with the rules and requirements that we have in place to make those you know, approvals of a project.
So would that appeal then go in front of council or P&Z, or where would that go?
I think it goes in front of the Board of Adjustment right now.
P&Z then?
Yes, I mean, the same faces, correct, yeah. But they're a statutory body, so, and I think from there, if there's still an issue, I think it then could go to town council. But we can look at a different type of appeals process as we're sort of going through, again, our update. I think the intent was to comply with state statute right now and then work on giving us a little bit of time to be a little bit more creative and getting sort of the best that we can and how we want to regulate this during our update.
Can you describe what at-risk grading permits are?
Yeah, of course. So a lot of times when people are going through a building permit process, let's say, for example, they want to build a new home, they may have their site plans ready to move forward before they have their building and architecture plans ready to be completely approved. And so they like to call that sort of preparing a property to be shovel ready, meaning it's ready for construction to move forward. I've felt, you know, just during the time I've been here, and I think prior to, we've always held off on any type of construction beginning until a building permit has been completely issued, only due to the fact that things happen. People have grand plans and those grand plans change. We prefer people not to impose upon the desert unless they're absolutely ready to move forward. So it's, you know, it's hard to sort of let go of that, because there's the idea of, once they're moving forward, we want you to continue to move forward rather than leaving kind of something behind. And so we do have some
Exactly.
pretty significant hurdles, I believe, that we put in there to really then assure that something is going to be moving forward.
Yeah, we don't want a scarred site.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So, one, it's a dust problem if it sits
Could
there
be.
a long time.
Mhm.
And two, they probably post a bond or something, I
Yes.
guess.
Mhm.
But you'll never restore the desert to what it was before.
Right. I
Um,
think we want people, you want somebody to be ready to move forward with the project, not, and other times, sometimes there's also sort of a practice of getting it ready to then sell it to somebody else, things like that. And you're right, then potentially it has potential for nuisance problems, so. But I think we've got some good language in there assuring, because we also have part of our development processes are plant salvage and things like that. And the assurance that the town engineer is comfortable that this project is ready to move forward, as well as the permit, the final permit must be approved within a certain time frame. So, but yeah, it's a concern.
So this was passed and signed March 31st, correct?
Mhm.
Why didn't we hear of it before then, before now? I mean, now we're going to have to vote on it.
Mhm.
But, I mean, I've got like 300 pages that came through.
Well,
It wouldn't have been like in April to appraise the council and P&Z of the changes?
Well, I would just argue on the bright side, we lived without this for the last few months. And I'm in no rush to allow expedited disturbance of land or curtailing public comment.
Well, thank you, Mayor and Councilmember Roth. I understand. There's a lot going on in Town Hall, and we move forward and move on things in the most expedited manner that we can. This came later in the process, and during the summer we were working on the northeast corner. But you're right. I mean, we could have brought that forward sooner. But I think now, in essence, regardless, we have an opportunity to continue to work on it. Right now, this is just for us to come into compliance. So we are actually, I think, in a good position because now we have this other project that's sort of right behind for us to then have a better discussion about it.
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm just saying,
Mhm.
it's for us to understand all of this would have been better. And also, if we had gotten a push earlier and said, oh my God, this is a huge impact for our town and other small towns, an opportunity to reach out before it takes effect in January to say to the legislature, here are a bunch of towns that are saying this is harmful to the towns, which it is.
I can't answer to that. I would tell you this 300 pages, I think there's tables in there that it's not quite that long. The changes are only within a certain number of pages. So I think the 300 was probably the entire ordinance itself, but the table hopefully you saw to help you kind of save some time not having, you're right, to reread the whole ordinances.
I guess to that point, has any other small town fought this or said, we don't want, I mean, we can't be the only one?
Well, Mayor, Councilmember Johnson, I think there was, and probably Gary might be able to speak to it more in terms of some of, understanding through MAG and other communities as the legislation was moving forward. Paradise Valley, for example, for one, who is working on their update, I think the mayor mentioned that they're looking at aggressively interpreting this law so that they can still figure out a means of having a more public process. I don't know of what the movement was behind it. What I do understand, though, from the League of Cities is that there's several other pieces of legislation, most that don't apply to us because of our population. So we are sort of in a better position than some communities that have to go even further in terms of complying with new regulations to support residential development, affordable housing. And so, we are trying to figure out then together, you're right, that there are potentially ways to try to incorporate a better discussion than what the state is discussing. But what I was going to get to is the League of Cities actually did not oppose this particular legislation where they normally may have, because there was other bigger bills and bigger types of impacts. While we feel, and so, you know, it's unfortunate because it, you know, they kind of made it, this one felt like they thought it was a one size fits all, and it really doesn't. I don't think they thought further about the ramifications to some of the smaller communities versus the larger communities, so.
So if you follow legislation, we have known about this for a while, right? Because there were people that were trying to fight it throughout this process. Then once it came through that it did pass, then it's, you know, you had to talk to the attorneys, you had to look at the legal part of it, right? How does the town comply and what do they have to do? Again, there's a lot of bills that have come out that have, you know, kind of overwhelmed the cities and the towns. And like you said, for a big city, it might make sense. For us, it doesn't. Some of the other legislation, if you're not paying attention, you really should be, because they are restricting a lot of what's going to happen in cities with 70,000 or more, 300,000 or more. We're a very small town, so they didn't impact us, but they work incrementally, right? So once they have it and it's for a larger city, don't be surprised if they don't come back with a smaller city. So we have to be kind of aware, and we have to be kind of fighting this at all times.
Yeah, so obviously this legislation passed in March. The legislative session ended in either June or early July. That's it. It's speak before that time, or you have to live with it. So even though we don't like it, and typically, you know, as John was saying, the state is always looking for ways to take power away from us, there was nothing we could have done once that legislation had passed. So now we have to try to, as Stacy said, live within that and try to massage it the best we can to try to keep the public process within the guidelines, but probably more than what the state was allowing.
But we are in the next legislative session, right? So there are people that are trying to see, can we reverse this? Can we make changes to this? Can we do it? So those conversations are being had.
So do you know who's involved with that? And if you can, let us know. We can work with
Once
that.
I have more, yeah. I'll give you
So what I'd like to do is just talk about some of the projects that are in town percolating or underway, just so we can understand the impact.
Okay.
So for example, working from east to west, like Stage Creek Estates is done. We approved that plat last month or 2 months ago. Maybe the last plat we'll ever approve as a town council. But that project is done. So this has no impact to that.
Right.
If we look at the state trust land, okay, state trust land is zoned R70. So if someone buys that and they want to build R70 houses on it, then this will take away.
That will be that type of project would move forward as a preliminary and final plat and would just be approved administratively.
Exactly. And if they come to us with a zoning change request, well, that goes through a zoning process, which is planning and zoning and town council.
Right, so and thank you for bringing, any type of entitlements or legislative actions still will go to planning and zoning and then town council. One being, just as you mentioned, a rezone, for example. If somebody bought state land and wanted to rezone it to build 1 acre homes, then that goes through the public process. So there is, when it comes to entitlements, there is control. And that there is public input and that opportunity for more control.
Right, so another entitlement request would be a special use permit for storage.
Correct.
So we have one of those. We had one at Bloody Basin and Cave Creek Road. That may come back. Needs an SUP, needs a special use permit. It's going to go to planning and zoning, it'll come to the town council. So this will not have any impact upon that.
Correct.
A month or two ago, a gentleman named Scott Whalen came before planning and zoning and talked about trying to develop the property behind Giordano's. So the Italian restaurant over here, next to, in front of the, it's near the Foothills Carrying Corps. For what he wants to do, that's zoned commercial. So he wants to put in some residential, commercial hybrid. Takes a zoning request. He'll have to go through a zoning process. So council and P and Z will have a bite at that thing also. The Vista at Carefree, this townhouse thing over here.
Right, across
So
Cape Creek Road, north of it.
So how will that be impacted by this?
Well, interestingly, they had submitted their preliminary plat, prior to all of this legislation, as well as they're looking for relief from one of our development standards for building a perimeter wall, and so they require variance. So that gives us some leverage, right? Because they'll be asking something from our Board of Adjustment. So while he started, the developer and owner started the process earlier, so they've decided to continue going through that preliminary plat process. So, but I haven't heard them pull back. They haven't asked to, wait till the legislation passes. And again, they do need relief, so that does come in front of the Board of Adjustment.
So it's still going to come before the Board of
Comes
Adjustment,
in
no
front of
matter
our
what.
one of our bodies, yes.
Okay, that's great. Northwest corner, right? Remember, this is the property of northwest corner of Carefree Highway and Cave Creek Road, or Tom Darlington and Carefree Highway. So that is owned R70 today. So that property could be developed R70. They will develop a plat. It will be an administrative approval. But if they wish to change the zoning, then it goes through a zoning process, planning and zoning, and the town council.
Right.
And we can have, what's the right word is, not a development agreement, but we can have, through that process, we can control aspects of that program, of the plat and
Right, we
everything
can
else.
apply stipulations and conditions that we expect further development to comply with.
okay. And if you look at the northeast corner, so we have a development agreement, it's zoned, but there's a parcel there, parcel C, which they may wish to change the zoning from office to commercial. Again, a zoning change, it goes through the process, planning and zoning, town council. Is there anything else? I mean, these are the things that come to mind
Those are
in
the
our
big
town.
ones, but I would add that, and I think fortunately the way that the process happened is that, so we did look at the site plan, the Development Review Board looked at the site plan for the parcel A, which was the main corner of the northeast corner development. When they come in for site plan for parcel B and C, following the, let's assume that they're asking for changes in the conditions and you all have approved those. Those site plans, though, however, would be approved administratively. But I think the fortunate part is that because we sort of have one that's already gone through the process, it's kind of established a framework of expectations of architecture, site layout, things to that effect. I'm not saying that, it makes it any easier not to come in front of a board or a body to get a formal approval. But at least I think we have an idea of how the rest of that development will build out.
Okay, any comments or questions? Okay,
So what if
is
we
this-
deny it? What if we deny? We just vote no tonight, Dennis? I mean, kick the can down the road. What is it?
Well, you potentially, in a legislature, or somebody could file a complaint and go through that process, that we wouldn't be in compliance with state law. And then as part of that process, we didn't come in compliance, and they potentially, sometimes they ask to withhold money and things like that from a town or city that's not in compliance with state statute.
Okay, thanks.
Why would
In
we,
fact,
why
it's
would
quite
we do
common.
that?
It's common, they do that. They did it to Tucson, they did it to Bisbee, they did it to somebody in the Maricopa County.
There's another one going right now, I think Sedona has one going on right now.
So state legislators, they look for ways to flex their muscles, and so they gave themselves the power to withhold funding, to jerk us around if we don't comply. So you might as, it's a foregone conclusion.
So the
You
way
gotta
I looked
approve.
at this, yes, it's 300 pages, but the lined out items are red and the rewording to comply with state law are blue. So it's not like you have to read the entire zoning and ordinances. It's just what we're changing the sections that are out of compliance with the state. So we're not doing any other changes, so I don't know why, knowing that we're going, forward with the zoning rewrite, but I don't know why we would not do this, because we're just changing the words to comply with state law. That's it. So is that a problem, or?
I think it probably just rubs
You
people
talking
the
to me?
wrong
Well,
way.
I know, I believe me. I've seen the federal government looking to take power away from the states for decades, and states looking to take power away from local governments. It's a horrible thing. But we want to stay in compliance with the state law. I mean,
No,
we-
you're
we
talking to
should.
me. That's what
Yeah,
I'm
no,
asking
I'm
you.
just saying, that's what we want to
Okay.
do. If that anyone, if we want to go down the path of not complying with state law, I would want to know why someone wants us to do that.
Well, Dennis just gave you the answer.
No.
That was called 1487 complaints. Sedona's just answered one, that was filed by, I think legislator, Senator Mark Vinson. So, we're just looking back with the formal name, and they're called 1487 complaints.
Any other comments from council?
Yeah, but to be clear, like you just said with the northeast corner, we have A supposedly lined up. And they come with B and C, they would only have to go to you, but there's nothing to prevent a presentation on what they're going to do. Correct?
Well, Mayor and Councilmember Roth, I think that's what we're going to look towards as we do our zoning ordinance update. to try-
Nothing's saying you can't do that. We're just not holding a public hearing, but you can do
Right.
information.
We can, we don't have a requirement to do that at the moment.
I'm not saying, I'm just
I mean,
saying,
staff, if you wanted staff to make a presentation,
staff
yes.
could make a presentation on something big that's important to the
Of course,
community.
right. We just couldn't mandate the property owner or developer to
I
do so, but
totally
we could,
understand.
we could
Just
do an
saying.
update, of course, yeah. And if I could add to, I appreciate what you're saying, Councilmember Johnson. The one thing is that because we have the legislation, I think it has at least allowed us to add language to things like at-risk grading and expedited permits that protect us. So, you know, I understand, I think really, I get it, the heart of it is the approvals, I totally
No,
get that, so.
and I appreciate the response. I just was
Yeah.
simply asking what happens
Yeah,
if we said no.
I gotcha.
Okay, anything else from council? So hearing none, this is a public hearing, correct?
Yes.
So we'll open the public hearing. Do we have any slips?
Yeah, you do.
You are doing a call to the public. Would you like to speak on this item?
Yeah, I must have filled it out. My apologies.
Okay, Mr. Nimsky, come on up.
Hi, John Imsky. I'm a commissioner of planning and zoning, and I want to speak to this. I talked to Stacy today. I get that, obviously, our planning and zoning ordinance has to comply with state law. And so I get that. But what Stacy and I also talked about is that we will have the opportunity down the road, as part of the rewrite of the zoning ordinance, to address this again. But in addition to that, and Mayor, you made some of my comments already, we have the opportunity during this current legislative session to find a sponsor and actually look for an amendment to this House bill. That is common practice. That's how House bills get amended. That's how Senate bills get amended. So as long as we can bring together a number of the small communities, find a legislative sponsor, we can affect an amendment that makes some of the changes that we want to make. So this is not a done deal, as has been represented by certain members of the council. We have the opportunity to amend it. We have the opportunity to give our input as to where we see powers being taken away from the council, from the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I believe there is an opportunity to find a legislative sponsor to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Arnold Oldbach. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Okay, call to the public. Oh, yeah. So I assume all these other ones who submitted a slip are called to the publics and not for the hearing, correct?
Correct.
Okay, excellent. So we'll close the hearing. Okay, so now we can move on to the vote. So we have two motions to entertain. And I would entertain a motion for the ordinance 2025-03. It's shown on your screen.
Do we do both of them at the same time?
Let's do separately.
Oh, okay, so motion to approve ordinance 2025-03 with publication requirements in accordance with ARS 9-802.
Okay, any comments before we vote? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. I would now entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2025-04.
Motion to approve ordinance 2025-04 with publication requirements in accordance with ARS 9-802.
Any comments from the council? So hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, thank you. And thank you, Stacy. Call to the public, item number 9. Those wishing to address the council need not request permission in advance. The public may address the council on matters not on the agenda. At the conclusion of an open call to the public, individual members of the public body may respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the public body, may ask staff to review a matter, direct staff to study the matter, reschedule the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date, or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. However, the council may not discuss or take legal action at this time. Please limit your comments to not more than 3 minutes. Okay, Arnold Oldbach, or Oldock, sorry.
Good evening. John's one of my neighbors, but we live in Carefree Shadows, and I just wanted to compliment CJ and the town council on the work that was done for the paving of the neighborhood. It's a really good job, and Copper State's been very cooperative. As a matter of fact, they did a fair amount of damage to my off-street parking, and they told me they would repair it at the end of the project. In fact, they did, and they did an equally good job along with the streets. So compliments to Copper State and compliments to CJ for the work that was done.
Very well, thank you. Mr. Les Hardy.
Mr. Mayor and members of council, I'm Les Hardy. I am one of the... Yes, of course. Okay. The clock controls. Are we ready? I am one of 3 people who are working to put on a now a world-famous car show called Orphans and Oddballs. And for the viewing public, many questions are, what is an oddball? We know what an oddball is, but people say, what are orphans? Well, orphans are cars whose parent company is now defunct. Or to put it another way, these are cars whose parent company has died, making them orphans. The most famous in America are Packard, Studebaker, Hudson, Nash, Willys, now American Motors. From the great age of automobiles, Duesenberg, Auburn, and Cord, and Tuckers. From Europe, there are dozens and dozens of dozens, not including my Triumph, which is now no longer made. So we are putting on a show involving orphans because most car shows want Ferraris and Lamborghinis, and we do not want Ferraris and Lamborghinis. We want old classic cars from the great era. And most of these are from they fall into the category of orphans. We had a show scheduled for November 16th. We were rained out, but it wasn't canceled. It's just been continued. It's now January 11, around the sundial and around the Cactus Garden. It starts for the public at 9 o'clock. It'll go from 9 till 1 o'clock. In the afternoon. It's free to participants, people who have cars. They just need to show up. They don't need to register. They don't need to get on the computer list. There is no computer list. We are doing this sort of, we're trying it out and seeing if it's going to work. We are not sure it will, but we have every expectation that this will be a fun event. Many of you have seen the picture of the funny man driving up the sundial. We need to make it very clear to everybody that there are no races up the sundial. Cars will not be asked to race up the sundial. The insurance agent said, sorry, can't do it. All right. January 11, we hope everybody will be there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Emily Kyle. No,
So,
don't put it on us.
my name's Emily Kyle, and I'm new to the community. I've only been here for just a year. We lived in Paradise Valley for almost 30 years before then, and Councilmember Clint Miller was our architect who did our first home, so thank you so much for that. I appreciate the mayor responding to my two issues that I would like to bring today. I'm not great at just one no, so I thought I would try again. So my first issue is with regard to gas-powered leaf blowers. I think that they should be banned, and if not banned, that at least mufflers should be required in order to reduce the noise. Pursuant to code, they're allowed to be used 11 hours a day, Monday through Saturday, and 9 hours on Sundays. I cannot sit outside and enjoy a cup of coffee or lunch or a drink without hearing the buzz of the leaf blowers. When I reached out to the mayor, you provided a very thorough response, mostly which was about enforcement problems. I'm not sure, and the other was that I should go to the state legislature. Well, we've already heard that we don't love what the state does when it tells the cities what to do, so I'm not sure that's a great solution. And from an enforcement, I don't know how it's any different than in our code. It says you cannot have a car that squeals its tires or a motorcycle that runs at over a certain decibel level. I don't know how adding an enforcement to simply say the gas-powered leaf blowers have to remain below a certain decibel point or to restrict the times that they're used would be any more difficult. We have all kinds of rules about dust control on construction sites, including having water trucks so that we can reduce dust, yet we allow for 11 hours a day, Monday through Saturday, for leaf blowers to blow dust all over the place, and for 9 hours on Sundays. Our statutes say that leaf blowers cannot provide any dust or debris to go into the roadway or neighboring properties. That's impossible. Therefore, they are all in violation. Having been here as long as we have in Arizona, we used to not ever hear a leaf blower. Somehow landscaping was done without them. I won't even go into the environmental issues that arise because protecting the environment is sort of out of favor right now. But I would ask for the council to allow staff to study the problem, see if we could come up with a better solution than what we have. My second issue, and I have to talk really fast, is about, totally unrelated, is about live streaming. It does not provide the public with any opportunity to do what I'm doing today. So I had to leave early today from work so that I could get here. You can't talk on the live stream. Again, I was in Paradise Valley for almost 30 years and on the town, the Board of Adjustment for I think 15 years. All of our meetings were done by Zoom. We have lots of people who don't live here full time.
That's a buzzer. Okay.
I have to shut up now. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's our last call. We have John Mattis, sorry. John Mattis, come on up.
Good evening, John Mattis, Carefree, Arizona. This goes back to when the general plan was going in effect for months. The town hall was on the general plan. It was always at the bottom, concern for the residents. Then all of a sudden it came back again. Now it's in the redevelopment. In town hall, we spoke, Mr. Mayor, and there's no space issue from what I understand, if I had a conversation correctly. Then Chief Publichek said we were going to have an appraisal. That appraisal was done. Now they're talking about building a new town hall because we can get sales tax revenue from something, restaurant, what have you. The issue is, if you look at the numbers, and I don't know if the numbers came back or ever came up on what would it cost to build a new town hall. I haven't seen it. So I went out and did my own research. To build a municipal building, town hall, 10,000 square feet, 2 stories, $2.8 million low end. And that's before any soft costs. In other words, you're going to have furniture going in, security system, etc. Let's say you get 800,000 for the lot town hall's on. 2.8 million, take the 8 out, you have $2 million the town now has spent over. If you're going to see $200,000 a year in sales tax revenue, you're going to be 10 years before you even come close to making any money. It doesn't make sense. The other issue I have is I got a copy from the Attorney General letter because I filed one of the open meeting violations. The one that, when I was reading this, I was absolutely amazed. On the council meeting, June 4, 2024, one resident was not allowed the full time to speak. The comment that was made, council did cut off comments before the 3-minute period. Additionally, it was response council admitted the individuals were cut off, but stated the individuals had the opportunity to address council at other meetings. That's appalling. I don't know who it was. I'm assuming the Attorney General was factual in the letter, but as my dad used to say, that dog don't hunt.
Okay, well, thank you. Time's up. Yeah, we mismanaged the clock on that occasion. Okay, that closes call to the public. So now we'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so now we'll go to executive sessions, and we start at 6:25.